Welcome to Turner Classic Movies. I'm Ben Mankiewicz, and this is Cartoon Alley, where we take time out of our feature movie schedule to focus on shorter animated movies, usually around 7 or 8 minutes long, just right for today's MTV crowd. Actually, come to think of it, 7 or 8 minutes, probably 6 or 7 minutes too long for the MTV crowd. Today on Cartoon Alley, we have 3 shorts from animator David Hand's Animaland series, made in England during the late 1940s. When you think about the world's first animated feature film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you think about Walt Disney. When you think about Bambi, you think about Walt Disney. But it was actually David Hand who directed those films. Hand had been Disney's #2 guy for about a decade during the 1930s and 1940s. But faced with the daunting reality that he would always be living in Disney's considerable shadow, Hand resigned in 1944 and took on a new challenge to build a world-class animation studio in England. The first projects he created for the studio were a series of 9 now famous cartoons under the banner of Animaland. Up next today, the first of those shorts. In the land down under, a duck-billed platypus falls in love with his pretty new neighbor. From David Hand's Animaland series in 1948, here's The Platypus.
Australia. Now, there's a place with some very unusual types of wildlife. For instance, where else can you find the familiar kangaroo? The laughing jackass or kookaburra. They laugh for any reason or no reason at all. But perhaps the strangest creature in the world is the Australian platypus. You may not believe it, but this odd little animal has the tail of a beaver, she's hatched from an egg, has the fur of a mole, and a duck's bill. These little fellows are probably the shyest of all. They're really bashful. Looks like Miss Platypus is going to have a neighbor. And he's handsome, too.
The Platypus was directed by Burt Felstead, who directed all 9 of David Hand's Animaland shorts. Now, 5 of those 9 cartoons were thought to have been lost forever. But a few years ago, a film archivist named Ken Kramer purchased a box of old 35mm color prints, and then he just set them aside, didn't think about them. Well, director Joe Dante, who made Gremlins, he saw the reels and immediately recognized them as the work of David Hand. These weren't just old cartoons, Dante said. These were important old cartoons. Well, Kramer, the archivist, contacted Hand's son, and together they had the films restored, enabling us to enjoy them today. Up next, the first of the Animaland cartoons about a cuckoo bird, a baby bird, and one hungry weasel. From 1948, it's The Cuckoo.
Every spring, about the middle of April, the familiar call of the cuckoo breaks the quiet of the English countryside. It's a curious fact, but the cuckoo never builds a nest of her own. Instead, she uses some other bird's nest. Mrs. Cuckoo steals one of their eggs and destroys it. Then she replaces it with one of her own. Now, the cuckoo egg looks so much like the other egg that her shocking trick is never discovered even by the owners of the nest, in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Hedge Sparrow.
I'm hungry. Poor baby sparrow. Nowhere to sleep, nothing to eat. His life becomes a nightmare. A cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. No, a cuckoo ain't as cuckoo as before.
You're the one who's crazy.
Eggs brains to be so lazy. No, a cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. When you're blue, go cuckoo like the cuckoo in the spring. Realize he's really wise and not a silly thing. Oh, a cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. No, a cuckoo ain't as cuckoo as he's called. Cuckoo, cuckoo, he never toils or labors. He borrows from his neighbors. A cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. Oh, a cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. No, a cuckoo ain't as cuckoo as his call. Sail the whole world over, he's the clown that's found the clover. No, a cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. Oh, a cuckoo ain't so cracked as if is. He knows which are lemonades and which are beers. He's a hardy smarty. His life is one long party. No, a cuckoo ain't so cuckoo after all. Ain't so cuckoo. Ain't so cuckoo. Ain't so cuckoo. Cuckoo, cuckoo.
So ends the baby sparrow's home life, and he now becomes the innocent victim of the weasel.
My goodness, you look depressed for a juicy, I mean healthy young lad. Tell me, what's the matter?
Nothing's the matter with me. I'm just hungry.
You're hungry? My good fellow, come right in. It's a humble little cottage, but I call it home. I'm having soup, a very unusual kind of soup. It's called inside soup. How do I make it? I'm glad you asked me that. First, you get inside, like this. Then you stir it from the inside, like this. Then you put the lid on, like this. Inside soup. Oh, that's a good one.
So cuckoo, he's just bad. No, the cuckoo ain't so cuckoo, he's a cat. One way or another, he will rob his little brother. Oh, the cuckoo's just a cuckoo, not a friend. The cuckoo's just a cuckoo. Just a cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. For a cuckoo's just a cuckoo to the end.
You can certainly see a lot of the Disney influence in David Hand's work, and it's no coincidence. J. Arthur Rank, England's leading movie mogul during the 1940s, wanted to build a classic animation studio that was every bit as good as Disney. It was Rank who brought David Hand to England from Disney, set up GB Animation Studios, and funded the animation staff, many of them veterans returning from the Second World War. Up next, our spotlight on David Hand's Animaland shorts continues with a lighthearted look at the King of Beasts. From 1948, it's The Lion.
Felis Leo, or the lion. Is he or is he not the true king of beasts? Here in the heart of darkest Africa, I hope to settle the question once and for all. To begin with, I was confronted with a huge, problem. But I was fortunate in being able to observe the young prince stalking his prey with true regal dignity. the end of 3 years, this magnificent creature, in order to attract a girlfriend, develops a mane.
That's the main idea. Main idea. Get it? Get it? Looks to be like love, young feller. Yes, indeed. Me. Bet your life it's love, young feller. Bet your life it's love. Cross your heart and start to tell her about the stars above. Bet you thought that love had missed you. Now you found its charms. Now, let's be frank, Sinatra.
Bet your life she can't resist you. Take her in your arms. Try to make her heart beat faster. Set her in a whirl.
Now, who am I? Ha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. Boy, you gotta be the master to get your girl. She'll surrender, be as tender as a toil dove. Force the girl to hug and pet her. Bet your life it's luck.
Does the adult lion display royal courage? After 9 years of patient waiting, I witnessed His Majesty hunting the mighty water buffalo. In summing up, the lion, so far from being the king of beasts, appears to be a cowardly, half-starved creature. But, king or no king, of one thing I am convinced. That the lion will not Eat that.
David Hand set up the GB Animation Studio, trained its artists, and produced 9 episodes of the Animaland series and 10 more in his musical Paintbox series. But to turn a profit, the studio had to sell these animated shorts to American movie distributors who just wouldn't bite. They chose to buy their animated shorts in the good old US of A. And without that income, GB Animation closed its doors forever in 1950, and Hand returned to America. But he hardly worked again in the business, resurfacing only briefly shortly before his death in 1986 to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to animation. That's it for this edition of TCM's Cartoon Alley. If you like cartoons, keep an eye out for more Cartoon Alley shows as we take a break in our day to turn the spotlight from classic movies to classic cartoons. Thanks for watching.